We all need some inspiration from time to time, and he has inspired many people to think out of the box. His name? Guido. I call him the Professor of Strikeless Tactics. He's the guest on today's Tactics and Tips. Tactics and Tips. Tips and tricks, you freaking idiot. We all need some inspiration from time to time. And some of you have been inspired by the Professor of Strikeless Tactics. His name is Guido. And he runs an award-winning blog called strikeless.com. If you have not been there before, I don't know what's wrong with you, because you should have checked that website out a long time ago. And I'm on it because for the first time ever, I have him on video. Yes, here on the channel, he's on video. So give it up for the man of the moment, Guido.
Hi, my name is Guido of strikeless.com. When all else fails and you do have to break down an opposing defense, you can use set pieces to do so. That means, well, corners, free kicks, or in this version of Football Manager, a very effective way to batter an opposing defense is actually long throws set up like this. A few players near the first post, a few players near the far post, one short option, and a few players lurking on the edge of the box. And just have a player fling the ball into the penalty area. The player that's doing the throw-ins shouldn't even necessarily be, well, that good. 14 plus for long throws should do, and he doesn't have to possess the flat bullet throw PPM. What generally happens if you execute it correctly is that a long throw is either headed directly at goal or flicked on for someone else to tap in. We can see here that the center back gets a lucky deflection. Now, in a similar incident to this, in some cases it's not a direct goal, but the center back heads the ball on, and you can see someone else creating a goal this way. Football's all about movement. You want your players to move into space, you want to see overlaps, you want to see flick-ons, you want to see movement. Static teams are easy to beat. That means good off-the-ball movement, as well as good on-the-ball movement, is an important element of any good formation. Any team worth the salt will try to refrain from using a one-dimensional style of play. That means they will try to have players moving into space to receive the ball, but also players making shadow runs. Shadow runs means that players are trying to create space for others by dragging defenders out of position. This is an element that works both in strikeless tactics and more conventional ones. Now, this concept of players feeding off each other's movement will only really work if there is another player exploiting the actual space. This means that your team should preferably play in a cohesive formation, but it should definitely have different layers to its tactic, to its movement, to its formation. If every line makes the same run at the same time, the attacking patterns become predictable and easy to defend. A more irregular approach with players arriving at different locations and times tends to be more difficult to defend. Now, when applied correctly, this means that a single run forward by, for example, an attacking midfielder can open up space for 2, 3, or even more players nearby, waiting to pounce on a positional weakness by the opposing side. This knock-on effect of movements is quite versatile when done right, and something you should use. Now, the way you can use this is by setting different roles in your tactic, and, well, by knowing how each role is supposed to move, both on its own and in conjunction with others. Looking at a tactic screen, you can see if there's issues with movement and penetration by checking these red squares on the tactics block. Clicking on it says, well, there's only one player who's ever going to make an impact in this zone. Now, before you see every red square as an issue, it shouldn't be. For instance, the red squares you see in this strikeless tactics are caused by, well, not fielding actual forwards, but they're also in a zone of the pitch where, well, your players are not very likely to score goals, and, well, it's no big deal if not many of your players will ever get there. So try and balance the roles, try and get the roles right, know how each role is supposed to move, and you can use this screen as a backup to help you analyze any potential issues with your role movement. This bit is all about transitions, which are the keys to controlling a match, because chaos arises during a match, and whoever can control and manipulate that chaos will have a significant advantage. Now, the best way to prepare for transition is to generate numerical superiority, having man marking and players defending the space in front of them to close down the passing lanes. Now, making your transitions work requires some thought before constructing a tactic, as well as a fair dose of trial and error just to get the balance right. I generally use the following questions to help me in this process. When my team loses the ball, which players are returning to a defensive shape, and what do the other players do? Will they push forward, or will they just restrict the space? Upon winning the ball back, what are the players supposed to do? Maintain possession, or just break away? And which players are going to make runs into the opposing half? Are they making runs into space or not? And when my players lose the ball, will there be enough players behind the ball to stop a counterattack? And that last bit is the bit that tends to get overlooked. As Dutch people call that restverdediging. It's a term coined by managers like Peter Bos and Erik ten Hag. Restverdediging effectively means that when you lose the ball and your team has gone forward, will there be enough players back at the back to snuff out any counterattacks? Will we have enough players behind the ball to stop any counterattacks? And, well, it's mostly a role thing here. You have to mix it up. You have to balance your roles just to be sure that you have enough players behind the ball to stop any counterattacks. Take, for instance, this tactic here. You will have the two ball-playing defenders behind the ball when you lose it. The inverted wing-backs will take up positions here, as well as the defensive midfielder, while the others have flowed forward. That means you will always have at least 2, but most likely 3 to 5 players behind the ball to snuff out any counterattacks. Setting up your tactic like that means, well, I generally use this tactic grid to see if there's any orange or red zones popping up that could have issues in coverage. And just be sure to sort out your restverdediging. Just be sure to sort out players behind the ball to snuff out counterattacks to avoid getting caught out of position.
I want to thank Guido for popping in with those tips and tricks. Now, don't forget, you can catch him on strikeless.com. You can also follow his Twitter account. All the information is below. And this is my tip. If you are wondering about choosing a very good striker role, or if you're looking at creating a role up front that is creative and is looking to draw other players in and give them opportunities to carve out or even be on the end of goal scoring chances, you want to look at roles specifically that have moves into channels, because these are the strikers that will drift out wide. They will drift to the flanks because the channels are the space between the fullbacks and the defenders. And in SI's game, it also includes the line, the touch line, and where the fullback is. So these strikers, they will tend to drift wide. Now this is great because what they will do in lone striker systems is support wingers or inside forwards who might have the ball on the flanks. When they do this, they create overloads, drawing more players to them, thus freeing up space in the middle. This is when an attack duty on the other side, like a Ramdauter, an inside forward, even a winger on attack, can come in unmarked at the far side to score goals. we have come to the end of another episode of Tips and Tricks. I have a very special guest lined up for the next episode. I want to thank the FM community for rallying around the show, and definitely I'm going to get back to some of the others who have asked me to be on the show. We're going to try and get as many of you here as possible to share your tips and tricks on the game. It could be about tactics, it could be about something else. Yes, and if you guys are wondering, yes, we have a new thing on the Twitch stream. We have keywords that trigger certain things. You have control over my show, essentially. You can even change the scene from where you sit. And this weekend we have a keyword that I've already uttered on the show that is going to trigger a specific GIF that I've alluded to on Twitter. So and I've also uttered the keyword on the show. Yes, I did. Somewhere on today's show, I did kind of say it, and it's a pretty unique word that I used. And I want to thank everybody for joining me on today's show. Don't forget, this weekend on Twitch, address is below. So I look forward to catching up with all of you. Once again, I want to thank everybody for coming in on today's show. You guys are an absolute fantastic bunch. You guys, please stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Oh! How did that not go in? Nice ball out of Saint Maxime. Plays it to Rose. What a goal! Hey Siri, clip it. Hey Siri, clip it. What a goal. Now I'm gonna get this.